This podcast is brought to you by On Track Studio. What if creating more content was actually harming your business? I would argue that it is, and I'm going to get into that in this episode. The reason that I've decided to record this today is off the back of having an impromptu strategy meeting yesterday with a very new client of mine. Started last week, came in to record his very first podcast, and we got talking. Basically, he called me, and the long and short of the conversation was him saying, I want to invest my money with you and On Track Studio, but I don't know what angle to go down. And we, again, had this like impromptu strategy meeting, and what was in consideration for him is what I believe a lot of founders go through, particularly if you're in the coaching or consulting space, because just like what direction do you go in? So for context, he's in the real estate business, and he has a whole lot of experience in what he does, but very recently just gone out on his own. So he has just started his business, but there is so much authority and proof and case studies that he can draw on in terms of his marketing from his experience in, when he used to work for other people, and also, he's built a very, very profitable property portfolio himself. So that's a bit of context for you to understand, where I'm going with this story. But essentially he was like, I want to spend money. He didn't say it like this, but roll with me. But he's just like, I have a budget. What should I do? Should I first come in and record like short form content for ads, or should I prioritize recording for my, organic social media? Or should I go gun ho with the podcast and YouTube as he was going to do originally? Or like, these are the options, and these are the options we all face. And it's like, okay, well, what? And the first thing I said to him is like, what do you actually want right now? And he's like, well, I know that I could just put a budget behind an ad and get leads, and that would be, smart. And he sort of had this little plan or blueprint of what he was following in his head. I said, absolutely. If you want leads tomorrow, launching your YouTube channel and your podcast will not give you that by tomorrow. And so I was very upfront and real with him. But where the conversation went from there is what I was explaining to him, and what I'll share with you, because this is some context that I think really helps when you're trying to figure out what marketing activity to prioritize. Because obviously in an ideal world, we'd be doing it all at once and having enough ROI on all of the activity that it keeps paying for itself plus profit. Obviously that's what we all want to do. But when you're in the early stages of business, it's like you don't have any, evidence of any which way like working, and you want all the goals to be met. So yes, you want to get followers. Yes, you also want to get leads. Yes, you also want to have like a thriving client base. Which one do you prioritize? And I think, what I said to him is like, you got to really think about, once you capture a lead, right? Let's just really bring it back down to basics. Say you put up an ad on Meta and you capture this person's detail. So whether it be like, maybe in his case, we were discussing options like a downloadable, a checklist of what you need to have prepared before you see a broker, or, a short course of how to buy your first property. These are like the lead generation ideas that we were just floating around. What that is from the audience perspective is they will see an ad, a video or a graphic, whatever, on Facebook or Instagram, and they will be like, yes, I want that, give the details, and then get the short course or the checklist, the PDF, whatever it is. Great. You've got that lead. And, your marketing agency, if that was their stat to report on, would be saying, great, we got 60 leads this week. But the thing you've got to remember is getting that lead from giving their email address and actually investing tens of thousands of dollars in your service, it can be quite a long journey if you don't have it set up well. Because I've mentioned this on my channel and on my podcast many a time before, but in the book Oversubscribed, the author Mike talks about the data that has revealed that people need 7 hours of interaction with you to take them from a stranger, so the lead capture, the email, giving you the email, to a client, and more time depending on how much they're investing, right? So if we know that, what we have to consider is, do they have access to a minimum of 7 hours of your face and your voice where they can go and binge and automatically take themselves from stranger to investing in you? Have you got that live? And this is a conversation I was having with my client. I was just like, okay, so if you want leads and that's your only goal, I would say yes, just go get some short form content together and let's put a budget behind it, and then you've got your 100 emails. But the truth is, you don't want leads. What you want is a thriving client base, or apply it to yourself in whatever language you need, but what you want is sales. You want cash flow. You want profit. That's what you want. But we as businesses get caught up in this jargon because the marketing industry talks this way, and so we just parrot it from each other. So when you go to invest in your marketing, you talk in this jargon as well, and you sort of say, yeah, well, I want leads, or I want followers, or I want views, I want likes. But that's not true. What you want is a sale. What you want is a thriving client base. So if we know that that's the outcome that you're after, we have to avoid being so short-sighted with like the plan. Okay. So it's a very attractive option to just say, yep, I want leads tomorrow. So I'm going to go down the short form ads approach. But what I said to Luke, my client, was, do we have this foundational content there? What's going to happen after they forget that they gave your details and their email's gone to potentially junk, or maybe it's in their inbox but they've opened it, they don't come back to it? Where's the next step for them? What would be a more, long-term vision approach and would, be a lot more work up front but would pay dividends over time, would be to get together at least 7 hours worth of content that is directly talking either through your philosophy, who you are, showing who you are as a person, seeing if they mesh with you, but also showcasing your experience, your case studies, your proof of transformation that you can get them from A to B. That would be a much better approach in the long run, because otherwise you're just going to have to keep paying for leads and either manually calling them all and having that 7 hours of interaction with them manually, or they lose and the next person, the next lead magnet they download off your competitor who has got the library of content that they can go back and binge and understand and see who they are and have a personal relationship with, and make your competitor that no-brainer investment for them because they've put in the work to actually take them from A to B. That's what you're risking when you go for that short form first approach. Now, do I think that there is no place for short form? No, obviously I do, but it's just about prioritizing your marketing activities so you're setting yourself up for long-term success instead of, getting caught up in what the tech giants tell you is success. Focusing on short form will harm your business in the long run. Let me tell you why. These platforms and algorithms have been built to keep your ideal audience on that platform, all of us on that platform. They want hours of watch time. They want hours of consumption from people on these platforms. Why? Because their business model depends on the ad revenue they can generate from people being on the platform. So like the audience is the asset that they actually are rooting against you. From a business perspective, this is an ideal world. Like a girl can dream that this could happen, right? We want our ideal client to come on Instagram, see our post, watch it all the way through, click on our profile, click on the link in bio that takes them to either an inquiry form or a website or a landing page where they can directly purchase a course or a digital product. Ideally, that would be perfect. See how that completely contradicts the platform's plan, which depends on the ad revenue generated from people staying on the platform. They do not want you, the business owner, to be stealing people attention and taking it onto your own personal platforms. What they want is the opposite, to keep the audiences docile, non-engaged, in their reptilian brain, just scrolling. From that perspective, what do you think all of the tech giants who are funding all of these, strategies are going to say to you? They're going to say, you need to have, post 3 times a day on TikTok. You need to grab them in the first 3 seconds, have your short form content go for as little as possible because people don't have the attention spans to keep engaged. Like, this is the narrative that us as business people are being pushed because the marketing industry profits from our non-success. It profits from, people, the business owner being completely burnt out by trying to upkeep the hours it takes to pump out a single reel. Keeps us burnt out, keeps our audience disengaged and not like being pulled into actually, an intentional headspace where they are actually intentionally engaging with the content at hand. They want the person to be passive, to be docile, to be scrolling on, moving on to the next piece of content. Literally, the person who created TikTok, I remember hearing one time, was literally the algorithm was built off the pokies. Like they actually based TikTok algorithm off the algorithm that pokies like run on, because pokies have mastered the manipulation to keep people sitting there fucking going through and paying all their money. So it's exactly the same algorithm. It's not built for business. Businesses use this as a tool, and rightly so. It's a great tool to use. It's a beautiful, seemingly like free tool to use, but only if you have the education of like how you, the business, can manipulate, quote unquote, manipulate the algorithm to actually serve your business instead of serving the tech giant's dream. Okay. And the way you do this is you stop prioritizing short form content. You don't fall for the lie that the more likes and views, the better your business will run. Yes, it can lead to more exposure on your page, but it doesn't necessarily lead. It often actually does the opposite. It often, doesn't convert to actual sales in your business. What does is long form content. And you should be picturing your, whether it is, whatever version of short form content we're talking about, whether it's like just reels on Instagram, organic, or in like my client's case when he was talking about what he wanted for the short form content, ads, you should absolutely use those tools, but only when you have the confidence that you've also got that asset library there to automatically take them from like checked out, passive consumption, not actually in, a buying state of mind, to grab that attention, allow them to absorb, all of your short form content and take them on the journey to your long form content where they can spend at least, and I'm talking at least 7 hours with you over the time frame that they are considering purchasing from the likes of you or your competitors. Do they have access to all of that stuff already? Or are you kind of wasting your money and energy on this distraction where you think you're moving the needle in your business, you think you're being productive because of the outputs there, you're ticking these boxes, you're in an illusion really, because yes, you might be ticking those boxes, maybe your views are spiking, or maybe they're not. So many business owners are just in the daily posting grind and not even actually happy with the results they're getting even on the vanity metrics. But say you're happy, your views are spiking, maybe your follower count's going up, and you're sitting there wondering, well, where are the sales? Well, this is where they are. The sales don't come from that daily grind, short form, 15-second reels, or your carousels, even less time is spent on them. You really need to be giving an opportunity for your clients or ideal clients, just your prospects, to nurture themselves into an investment if you are an aligned, purchase for them. What I wanted to say is, when I was talking to my client, we're not discounting the short form strategy. What we've actually decided that we're going to do is we're going to prioritize his long form content from the point of view of like, what are the first initial pain points and what are his differentiating points and like aspects of how he does business that would be appealing to his ideal client. We're going to create long form content around those key things, get that, baking, like record it, edit it, put it up there, and also get his short form content firing so that he can have the best of both worlds. But he's not falling into the trap where you are kind of distracted by, yes, I'm just going to hire whoever, like people do it a million different ways, like hire a videographer for a day to get some shorts out there and still like not having that ability for to convert them into a long-term client because they don't have the library of content there working for them. But instead, to get the long form sorted, get the shorts out. You know, we have an offer at the moment which gives you 10 reels within, you come into the studio and sit with us for either an hour or a bit longer. And then we give you, 10 polished shorts for you to post on your ads or your short form metrics. But we're not going to do it and say, yep, that'll, sell the dream that's going to get you clients. We're going to say, here you go. This will give you that initial spike that you're chasing. But I'm also educating my clients along the way of being like, yes, we can get you the initial engagement that you think you want, but also it's going to work in your favor to have this whole bank of content there to then give your leads something to go and consume to take them from just an email in a lead form on Meta to a $1,000, $10,000 client. So really just wanted to sit down and have that conversation with you because I think it's so common to just, it actually really angers me how the lie has been sold to businesses, right? Because, I see it for what it is. And I've fallen into this trap myself. When I first started in this career, in this marketing career, I was like, yep, all the budget's going into short form. And, it gives you that dopamine hit as the person, whether you're the founder or the marketer, it gives you that hit because you're you can see these metrics moving. But then you come to your quarterly or monthly meeting with your boss, it's the marketer, or you just you look at the stats if you're doing it yourself. And you're like, well, the bottom line hasn't moved. It's only gone down because we've been investing in this short form content for the last quarter or however long. And the profit margins are slimmer than ever. And it's because for me, I believed all of this short form surface level, narrative until you look into the actual psychology of what it takes for humans to go from a cold audience, a stranger, don't know what you're about, don't know what you're offering, to someone who actually wants to invest in you. So you really have to base your marketing strategies from that place of okay, what is actually just the bare minimum required psychologically to take someone from A to B? Do I even have that bare minimum in place? And then refine from there. Because if you are a business that does not have, relevant 7 hours of content to what you're actually selling right now, and you're struggling to build that client base with ease, let's start there. Because, it'll get you a lot further, in the long run, but also from a point of view, from the creator's point of view, you're not going to get burnt out. If you've been in business for any length of time and you've tried to keep up with what you've been sold will help your business, the 3 TikToks a day, it's not just the time that it takes. Say, a 30-second reel, right? Doesn't take 30 seconds to create. A 30-second reel, you've got to come up with your idea what you want to talk about. You've got to script it out. You've got to make sure it has the hook, the lesson, and then a midway hook to make sure they're watching to the end, and a call to action. Then you've got to figure out how to caption it. And, you sit down to record that 30-second reel and oops, you're not a, perfect speaker. You make a few errors. So you're re-recording, and then you have to edit all the stuff ups out. And then you have to finally post it. And that's just one. A 30-second reel can take hours of your time. For what? For what? All it's serving is the algorithms and the tech giants stream to just profit off you burning out and not actually having success in your business. Because if you have success, they lose out. Because if you have success, their audience is leaving the platform and investing in you. They're actually, I'm filling out an inquiry form instead of doom scrolling. It literally is working against you. And it can be harmful. Why not just sit down, record your long form content and get your short form automatically? Whether it's you editing it or your team or your whoever you're partnering with, you're able to not burn out. You're sitting down talking naturally. And again, in these consulting and coaching industries, we're natural speakers. We coach people for a living, or we consult people. We know how to speak. And this is a lot easier to just sit down on a chair and talk how you normally would with your clients than try to hack the the algorithm and use language you don't even use to hook them in. And yeah, like, I guess like you just get forgotten. You make forgettable content in a generic sea of sameness because you're trying to follow the same thing that everyone else is following, which in turn completely dilutes your difference, which is why people invest. Like, people invest in you or your competitors because they're attracted to their differentiation. Like, that's the facts. Short form content completely strips that of you. Like, you don't even have the space to showcase your authenticity. And authenticity is such a buzzword. People are trying to like hack authenticity. They're like, by using the word, they're like, you know, I just like to show up here authentically. I'm like, if you have to tell me you're being authentic, you're probably not being authentic. Anyway, that's a bit of a stab. But yeah, like I said, like, I digress to the point, which is the fact is people are like, oh, well, I don't know if I can have a podcast or a YouTube channel and have long form content. I'd be weird on there. I'm like, well, you're being weird on your short form. Like, you're actually not being yourself. You're scripting it out. You're trying to, like, you're being performative. Like, you're literally being performative. Whereas in long form, you have the space to just actually just speak like your normal self. And then you can still get that short form gain and that, you know, that presence on your short form platforms from the long form. But instead of it being like scripted out and weird and you being cringe, it's just going to be a snippet of how you actually speak, and it goes out there. And then when people do stumble across it and like what you're saying, because you're being natural and you've got the magnetism, you're sharing your wisdom, you're going off, and they come back and see your profile and they're like, oh my God, there's a podcast there or a YouTube channel. They click on that, leave the platform. Sorry, tech giants. They're coming over to us now, and they binge your content and they're like, oh my gosh, I actually really relate to that girl or that man. I'm going to finally invest in that thing I've been wanting to invest in for a long time because it makes sense to me now. And this chick or this guy knows exactly what they're talking about. So I'm going to invest my money with them. And that's how you actually use the platforms for a business advantage instead of getting trapped in the daily posting grind that does not serve the end goal. Rant over. That's what I wanted to talk to you today. Let me know how that lands with you. Let me know what you've tried, whether you've seen success in like either shifting to long form or what you found with your short form strategy. Does it fall short? Are you feeling like what I'm talking about? Has it given language to maybe a problem you have? Or like, have you had a different experience? And I'd love to hear about that as well. And maybe I'll get you on the podcast and you can share from that place to share, you know, an alternative view, because that would be really interesting as well. But yeah, if you've tried that approach and you're not seeing, you know, success in it in the way you want to, shift gears and have a think about what I've spoken today, because yeah, I think, well, I know what I've seen in my experience is this literally changes the game. It puts the power back with you instead of everything that I hate about the marketing industry. Thanks so much for listening. I will see you in the next episode.